It was mayhem on the streets of Saint Lucia this past week, with numerous collisions resulting in the loss of life, various injuries, and even fiery explosions. 5 people were injured after a motor vehicle accident along the Kuitang Road on Friday, January 17, 2020. Bodies were strewn about the ground after a pickup veered off-road. On Saturday, January 18, 2020, a pedestrian walking along the Mondo Road was killed after she was struck by a pickup. The carnage was not over. In the Rodney Bay area, a Toyota Corolla burst into flames after another violent collision. Thankfully, no one was hurt in that crash. Kingston Shaw is the president of the National Association of Driving Schools.
Well, I don't believe there have been a rise in the number of accidents on the road, because I do not believe we have accidents on the road. What we do have are collisions, because they can't be prevented. They occur as a result of drivers either omitting what they have to do or doing something they should not have done. So it's either error of commission or omission that causes collisions on our roads. They are not accidents at all, because if drivers would change the style of driving, we would not have these collisions on our roads. The collisions we have on our roads is due to drivers not being aware of the surroundings and not having a sense of what the actions will lead to. So you'll find drivers driving fast, overtaking around corners when they ought not to, not recognizing that potential hazards that may exist. And a real good defensive driver would always take into account the potential hazards that may exist. I mean, driving on the road and we have pedestrians walking on that road, and you're going to be using a cell phone at the same time. Even look at the phone for 1 second. Let's just say you travel at 30 miles per hour. Your vehicle probably travel at least 45 feet. 45 feet is already the entire size of the road. You most likely knock that pedestrian, most likely that pedestrian end up under your vehicle at that point in time. And drivers not really recognize those things, that even take your eye for a split second, because you travel several feet before you even try and stop. And even at your speed sometimes, let's just say you're driving at 40 miles per hour, for you to stop, it will take you at least 75 feet. And many drivers think as soon as they hit the foot on the brake, the vehicle will stop. But it actually takes a while before you actually stop. And they don't take those things into consideration as well. You need more considerate drivers on the road, because the road is not just for you, it's for everybody else to use.
Je attributes the recent accidents to carelessness on the part of drivers and not the failure of driving school instructors to impart knowledge and produce better students. He argues that such crashes can be avoided if drivers practice due diligence and proceed with caution.
At present, the criteria for passing a practical exam as a learner is set by the DVSA, which is a Driver and Vehicle Standards Agency in the UK. So basically we're using the same standards as in the UK. What happens is once that student has passed that exam, they then start to develop bad habits, start to look at what other drivers are doing, try to catch up to the styles of the other drivers, and that does lead to collisions as well. All drivers have auto drive within their limit and develop their skill, and not just believe that as soon as you get your license, you just do what you want on the road. And there are rules and regulations on the road for a good reason, and we ought to learn to abide within those rules and regulations.
The defensive driving instructor has a few words of advice for the public when selecting a driving school.
Every 1st of January, all driving instructors ought to be licensed to operate on the road, which basically means you must go and pass through the qualification process to get your license renewed. After that is done, then you pay the registration fee. So I would like to employ the public that if they're going to go and register for driving school, ensure that the instructor is licensed, and you'll know that they will look for an instructor's license card like this one, which have the name of the instructor and the number of the instructor and the year of that license. So it must read the instructor's name and the year that instructor's license is renewed for. Otherwise, they'll be going on to drive an instructor who is not licensed, therefore the instructor will not be able to have them to do their practical exams.
She says traffic accident prevention requires a community effort where government, pedestrians and motorists cooperate to improve public safety.
Road collisions could be limited due to driver education, sensitization by the government itself, having public service ads. Even the government in itself can really reduce the number of fatal collisions we have on our roads if they were to implement road calming measures, for example, rumble strips, speed humps, proper signage. You're driving down, going down the Conneries, and the corner is actually, there's a sharp left corner, And you only know that when you're in that corner. If you have a sign way in advance that illuminate at night, you'll recognize there's a corner and probably slow down. So I believe the government have a role to play. I mean, for the longest while, we have been saying that persons in the back seat in a crash could kill you at the front because the person at the back doesn't have the seatbelt on. And our legislation only says that only drivers in the front should have a seatbelt on. And really, all over the world, all passengers of the vehicle should have a seatbelt on because seatbelts really do save lives. So the government have a part to play. You as a driver has a part to play. You as a pedestrian has a part to play as well. We have pedestrians walking on the road with earplugs in their ears, not hearing the vehicle come from behind, and that could lead to a fatal collision. The driver might be taking his time, driving probably on the road, and the pedestrian may just run across that road right in front of that driver because they didn't hear that vehicle coming.
The authorities launched an island-wide road safety campaign in November of 2019 following many traffic mishaps. However, it appears that the public service announcements have fallen on deaf ears. The recent spate of accidents, which has claimed lives and caused various injuries, has left policymakers scratching their heads. Should this be a call to action to enact tougher traffic laws, or should drivers be incentivized by a system which rewards good behavior behind the wheel in a bid to discourage reckless driving practices? It's left to be seen what strategies are employed to save lives. Melissa Paul reporting for the HTS News Force.